Look, we don't need more digital currency. We already have digital currency. It's called the US dollar, it's called the euro, it's called the yen. They're all digital right now.
Something very strange is happening in crypto today. Gary Gensler just revealed his true motives on CNBC today. He makes it clear he's trying to take down the crypto industry as a whole, not just protect investors.
Look, we as an agency are meant to be merit neutral, Jim. There's a lot of questions. There's 10 to 20,000 tokens. Actually, in the Coinbase complaint, we note that they have, through the Coinbase wallet, you can trade 16,000 different tokens. And there's a lot of debate as to the use cases and whether there's any there.
And why is Gary Gensler attempting to freeze assets on BinanceUS?
Mr. Chairman, a lot of it is hard to understand. For instance, in the Binance complaint, you say, Mr. Chairman, I need to know this. The SEC's Binance complaint also seeks emergency relief, like an asset freeze, expedited discovery, and even the appointment of a receiver. Are there more pleadings coming? Because if you do this, that's the end of Binance.
Look, we have concerns.
The SEC trying to freeze BinanceUS's assets feels like they're almost trying to orchestrate a run on reserves. Steady, lads, deploying more investor protection. And to be clear, if Binance truly has reserves backed one-to-one, then a bank run shouldn't be a problem. Just speculating that I think there's a pretty good likelihood this is the SEC trying to find out if that's the case. But then what about Coinbase, the most compliant? Why did the SEC let Coinbase go public if they were not up to the SEC rules?
Even going back to 2021 when we became a public company, before becoming a public company, you have to disclose everything about your business in depth. There was many back and forth revisions of our S1. And frankly, they had all the knowledge then, and they allowed us to become a public company.
And just like that, the SEC's trap may have been set. Because understand, the SEC allowing any company to go public is not the SEC approving a company. There's a difference between allowing and approving.
When you spoke just earlier about the IPO and the IPO process and the back and forth that you had with the SEC, I think implicit within what you were saying was that they approved us as a business. And yet the prospectus itself, as you know, also says very clearly that effectively the SEC has not opined on the underlying business itself. And in fact, that the company can't actually legally say publicly that the SEC has. Do you agree with that?
Well, they allowed us to become a public company understanding the S1, right? And so I feel like that's our moment to be totally transparent with them, show them everything about our business and how it operates. And so it's not great to have a regulator sort of come back later and say, actually, we changed our mind. This is already
Brian,
a
they
public
didn't
company.
change their mind. We had John Stark, the former SEC Office of Internet Enforcement Chief for 11 years. He was on earlier. He said it's very specific that in the IPO, the SEC does not approve these things. And it says very specifically they could come back and say that there is additional regulation that's required or additional disclosures or additional filings. And I think what they're very specific about is you call yourself an exchange, you call yourself a broker-dealer when it comes to prime. Those are things that you need to register for if you're going to be, either an exchange or a broker-dealer, just like the NASDAQ or the NYSE would have to.
And that's exactly where we stand.
A couple points. One is that if you're trading commodities, that doesn't necessarily apply, right? We have actually gone out there and acquired a broker-dealer license because we wanted the ability to trade crypto securities. There's actually, I think there could be a big, robust market of crypto securities trading in the U.S., even though we don't list any securities today. And by the way, I think you're right. The regulator does have the right to come, edit their thinking at times and come back and say, here's a new set of rules. And great, we'd be happy to follow those. The issue in this case is that we're getting conflicting statements from the CFTC head and the SEC head. And then the statements from the SEC are so, such an outlier. They're saying everything other than Bitcoin is a security. Well, that's not our interpretation of the law. That's not what the law says. And that's not what the position of every other country around the world, their financial regulators, is taking. And so I don't think we really had a choice, honestly. We had to go to court to really see if otherwise this industry is just not going to exist in the United States.
Well, yesterday, when Gary Gensler said, we don't need more digital currency, Remember, FedNow launches next month. The fix is in and the deck is rigged. This has always been the plan.
Look, I'm not going to go into any one set of conversations between the agency and a company, but we've had discussions with literally dozens of crypto incumbents, including the ones that you just mentioned. And what we find is this is a field that's built, the whole business model is built on non-compliance with the U.S. securities laws. And we're asking them to come into compliance, and they're going a bit of catch us if you can.
No, Gary Gensler, because Coinbase wants to comply.
That is a regulation by enforcement approach. And, we met with the SEC 30 times in the last year. They never gave us a single piece of feedback about what we could be doing better. We just got silence. And when we asked them, how would you like us to register? We have this dormant broker-dealer license. Could we activate that? We really got silence. And so it's not appropriate for the regulator to come back and do an enforcement action if we don't have a clear rule book.
And what this has all been building towards, FedNow launching next month. Think of this in basic terms like a digital dollar, like a Bitcoin, only not decentralized, totally permissioned, with zero privacy, and 100% manipulated by the regulators, US. The launch of the FedNow service, which is slated for July of this year, could have monumental impacts on US payments. And some features of this is a clear improvement from the archaic SWIFT system we have today. The FedNow service will facilitate faster payments via instant, irrevocable transaction settlement, making funds available to the payee in near real time. Additionally, its core clearing and settlement features are available 24/7, 365. And the FedNow service will be introduced in phases with new features and enhancements released over time. It will utilize the ISO 20022 standard and only cover domestic payments to start. So notice how they take out the old guard and put in the new. The promotion of CBDCs has begun, not just in America. Not surprisingly, a country famous for freezing protesters' bank accounts is leading the way.
Here at the Bank of Canada, we're exploring the possibility of issuing a digital version of cash. Not to replace cash, but to ensure Canadians always have access to a safe, stable, and official payment option in an increasingly digital world. You may be thinking, I don't need a digital Canadian dollar right now, and you'd be right. But Canadians may need one in the future. So the bank has to be ready if and when Parliament makes that decision.
And just in, as of this morning, the U.S. District Court has issued a summons for Binance CEO Changpeng Zhao over SEC action. And according to the summons, CZ's current residential address is in the Mediterranean island nation of Malta. I've personally heard he may be in Dubai, maybe he's in Malta. Truly, nobody knows. But looking at the summons, it does not appear that this has been marked as served, probably because they can't find him. But if they ever do, the company's CEO, CZ, won't necessarily have to appear in person. However, he is legally required to respond to the summons once served. And per the document, once the summons is served, Binance and its CEO will then have 21 days to respond. If you fail to respond, judgment by default will be entered against you for the relief demanded in the complaint. Make sure you click subscribe if you want to stay up to date on this, because crypto will survive, but self-custody has never been more important. Just in, BinanceUS announces a plan to delist over 100 plus trading pairs, mainly with Tether, and has paused OTC trading. Now, the biggest silver lining in all of this is that crypto is not going away, and the SEC crackdown on Binance and Coinbase surged DeFi trading volumes over 444%. My brother and I are speaking at the Web3 Gaming Expo in Pasadena tomorrow. Link down below for 20% off. Grab your tickets, link down below. And then, of course, 50% off the Blockdown Festival in Portugal in July. Awesome interview with the conference founder.